is an internet radio station that's fully produced by graduates of the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. From modern rock to old school hip hop, country to classical, news, talk, sports, and more. It's the noise you can't ignore. Log on to allnoiseradio.com. Fire up the station. Find out more about your favorite jocks. Get the latest CSB news and more. Plus, you can take All Noise Radio with you on the go for free. Just download the Live 365 app to your iPhone, iPod Touch, or BlackBerry and search All Noise Radio. Check out tomorrow's broadcasters today at allnoiseradio.com. Powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting.
Sit back down and shut your trap. It's time for
Keeping It Sports with M3, right here on All Noise Radio.
Are you ready?
Well, I'll need some beer.
You have to ask me nicely.
Come on now, don't be bashful.
Plays for the best sports talk and news surrounding each league.
I can prove it with my usual flawless logic.
Hey man, this time I'm gonna do it my way.
What's your name again?
And now, here's your host, M3, Mike Rosancy. Coming to you from Cherry Hill, New Jersey. It's time for Keeping It Sports with M3, powered by the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everything's going well for you here on this Monday, the 8th day of July. How you all doing out there? I hope you all enjoyed your 4th of July weekend. Kind of an extended one this year due to the fact 4th of July fell on a Thursday. It's always fun when a holiday falls on Thursday or Wednesday. Then you can really extend out your holiday weekend and truly enjoy it with your friends and family. Whatever you may have been doing, you stayed safe. Hopefully we didn't have any accidents, casualties with people setting off fireworks. Can't tell you how much that went on around my neighborhood over the last 4 days, especially scaring the crap out of my dog Brock, but hopefully he'll move on from that very soon. Also want to quickly send a shout out to all those out in the Southern California area who dealt with the earthquakes the last couple of days. I said earthquakes. There was one early Thursday morning, 6.4 magnitude. Then there was one late Friday heading into Saturday, measured a 7.1, and they're still dealing with the aftershocks there today. Thankfully, it does not sound like there's been a lot of damage or catastrophic damage. It hasn't sounded like there was too many casualties in this, but just send a thought and prayer out to all of those out there. Let them know that, hey, here on the East Coast, we're thinking of you. Now, when it comes to the sports world, though, I talk about fireworks. I talk about earthquake. I talk about ground shaking. That occurred in the sports world very, very early on Saturday morning when this whole moratorium, I guess they want to call it, as far as NBA free agency ended, when players could finally put pen to paper. And by about, I'd say Wednesday last week, most of the premier free agents were out of the way. But we were still sitting there wondering, all right, where's Kawhi Leonard going? When is he going to make a decision? It was down to 3 teams. We had heard he met with the Lakers, the Clippers, and met with the Raptors. And just wondering, when's that other shoe going to drop? When is he going to make the decision? And it's funny, it feels like some of these people on TV, the talking heads as we like to call them, they like to create things just to get their voice out there just to try and create a stir. Whether it be Thursday morning, you have Chris Broussard on Fox Sports 1 saying the Clippers are out, the Clippers are done. He's hearing that it's a strong likelihood he's going to go to the Lakers. That afternoon, you hear Jalen Rose on ESPN say it's 99% done. He's going back to the Toronto Raptors. And even with that, we still hadn't heard any rumors coming out. And this was one of the closest undercover, tight-knit free agent periods we have ever seen when it comes to a superstar. There was no, a family member said this, a friend said that, no sources, nothing leaked out. It was, a lot of this was just speculation from some people who just don't know what they're talking about. I mean, Chris Broussard, I've told you for years, he's nothing but a troll who just likes to throw crap up against the wall and hope it sticks. And Jalen Rose, I'm sure he thought his sources were good, but both of them turned out to be completely wrong. When we got the shocker, the stunner, late Friday into Saturday morning. You see, I fell asleep on my couch watching coverage of the earthquake in Los Angeles because it did affect the sports world. The earthquake was felt 140 miles away, or however far may be, in Las Vegas. Led to them canceling the rest of the Summer League games that night after they had a delay in the action between the Knicks and Pelicans, a game that they wound up not finishing. So they're doing all this coverage about all the earthquake on ESPN, especially because, hey, it affected a sporting event. I mean, when do you ever have 20,000 people show up at a Summer League game? So this was a big event it affected because people wanted to see Zion Williamson for the first time. People wanted to see R.J. Barrett. You probably had a lot of Knicks fans in the building wanting to see some of their young players get into Summer League action. So I fell asleep as I'm watching this around 20 after midnight. I wake up, it's about 20 minutes to 2, and I'm saying, all right, you got the 1 o'clock Sports Center on. I'm going to stay up and watch, want to see the top 10 plays. And I forget who the anchors they had on doing that. It was the last of the East Coast Sports Centers before they moved over on the West Coast for their coverage. And as they're doing the top 10 plays, one of them breaks through and says, oh, by the way, Kawhi Leonard is going to the Clippers. Like, what? Kawhi going to the Clippers? And like, yep, Woj will be on the 2 a.m. Sports Center to break this down. And that's a bombshell in itself because everyone kept thinking, oh, it's down to Lakers and Raptors. And that at 1:45 in the morning of Friday into Saturday is going to, wake me up a little bit, give me a little extra boost of energy. I'm like, wow, now I got to stay up and see coverage on this. They're ending that Sports Center and they're saying, yeah, the breaking news, Kawhi Leonard is going to the Los Angeles Clippers. And as SportsCenter's going off the air, they go, oh, and by the way, he's bringing Paul George with him. And I'm like, what? Time out. Whoa. Paul George, not just Kawhi is going to the Clippers, but Paul George is going there as well? What did I miss? When the hell did this all happen? And as it would turn out, the delay in Kawhi Leonard's free agency, the delay in his decision, is because he was waiting for someone to trade for Paul George. He wasn't going to go wherever he was going without a teammate. He wasn't going to go without another big star there. See, he's done that already, being the lone big star on a championship team with the Toronto Raptors. He wanted to bring a tag team partner with him. So he was waiting to see if the Raptors could make a trade for Paul George. He was waiting to see if the Clippers could make a trade for him. Prior to that, remember, a week and a half ago, we were getting word that, him and Durant were in discussion about teaming up. And when that didn't work out, Kawhi then went and talked to Kyrie Irving and tried to recruit him to the Clippers, but Kyrie's heart was set on joining the Brooklyn Nets. So when all that failed, he started putting together meetings with Paul George, talking to him about, hey, you got to get out of OKC. You got to force your way out and come wherever I'm going. This also, and part of the reason he was able to keep this under the radar so much is the fact that when he was putting together his meetings with the Lakers, with Jeannie Buss and Mitch Kupchak, he kept changing the location of the meetings so that, he would meet with Paul George in one place and later on would have the meeting with the Lakers somewhere else. I think he would have gone to the Lakers if the Raptors or Clippers were not able to pull off the trade for Paul George. But in the end, I think Kawhi's heart was set on not being part of another super team. Because think about it. He beat 2 super teams. He ended the Heat super team, what could have been a dynasty. He ended the Golden State Warriors dynasty. And listen, Warriors still may be a playoff team next year, but their run, as far as them being the undisputed best team in the league, that's over. It's done with. That team is not the same without Kevin Durant, and is not going to have Klay Thompson for most of, if not all of next year as well. So he's done that. He's saying to himself, why am I joining a super team if I've done nothing but beat these teams, take these teams out over the course of my career? So he chooses chooses the Clippers. As soon as he chooses them, we hear the news that Paul George is coming with them. And that in itself rocks the NBA landscape, because think about this. 2 years ago, Paul George forced his way out of Indiana. Said, I'm not going to sign here long term. You got to trade me. With 1 year left, they trade him to the Oklahoma City Thunder. That led the Pacers to getting Victor Oladipo. The Thunder were able to win over Paul George, making him realize this is a place he could be, making him realize this is a place he could possibly win and stay long term. So rather than the long talked about rumor of him following LeBron James' footsteps and going to LA, last summer he surprised everybody and signed a max extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Fast forward 1 year later, and now he forces his way out of Oklahoma City and goes to where he wanted to be all along, LA, only it's not the big brother team in the Staples Center. It's the little brother team, the team that doesn't play with the dim lights. It's the team that doesn't have the banners or the jerseys hanging up in the Raptors. Yeah, the team that everyone's always poked fun at for over 40 years, the Los Angeles Clippers. Now, there's the side of it where you say, oh, wow, bad guy Paul George. And after 1 year in OKC, after signing such a big deal with them, you're already forcing your way out. And I give the Thunder general manager, Sam Presti, a lot of credit, because he could have stuck it to Paul George, saying, wait a minute, you signed a big deal with us, and after 1 year you want out? No, we still got you for 3 more years. You're going to have to deal with this, man. You're going to have to live up to your contract here and just suck it up. Instead, he decides to say, all right, he doesn't want to be here. I'm going to trade him and get the best package I possibly can. And he was working Toronto versus LA in this deal. And the reports are, when it came to the Raptors, he wanted 3 unprotected first-round draft picks and Pascal Siakam and Fred VanVleet for their liking. So he got an even better deal from the Clippers, a deal that in the long run is going to be a win-win, hopefully, for both teams. In the fact that he gets 4 unprotected first-round draft picks, 1 protected first-round draft pick, 2 years where they have the right to swap first-round draft picks, Danilo Gallinari, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who was a rookie point guard for the Clippers this past year, all for Paul George. And just so he gets a king's ransom for a player that does not want to be there anymore. And you have, on the Clippers side, they're able to trade for a player that no one knew was available outside of the Clippers, Thunder, and Toronto Raptors. They're able to keep it under wraps the entire time, can get the deal done, and get Kawhi Leonard in the mix here. Unbelievable job by Jerry West. Unbelievable job by Lawrence Frank. I mean, Steve Ballmer, say what you want, richest owner in the league, but he's put the right people in place there. I mean, you think about Jerry West's career as an executive, not just the greatness he had on the court, leading to him becoming the logo of the league, but the greatness he's had off the court, convincing Shaq to come to LA, the draft night trade for Kobe Bryant, all the veteran players that they were able to get to come in on lesser deals to help those two lead to the three-peat. You have the moves that he made when he was an advisor with the Golden State Warriors, and all leading up to them getting Kevin Durant. And then his move to the LA Clippers, and he's just done a phenomenal job there with the people that he put in place there, whether it be with Lawrence Frank as his right-hand man, or it be with having Doc Rivers as his head coach. They've put good basketball people in place, unlike what the Lakers have been doing in recent years. And you think about it, when it comes to the Lakers, it's got to be a worse feeling today for a Laker fan than it is for a New York Knicks fan. Yeah, if you're a Knicks fan, it sucks. You didn't get the number 1 overall pick, so you didn't get Zion Williamson. But you're still able to get R.J. Barrett. You weren't able to sign Kyrie Irving or Kevin Durant, and they go 20 minutes away to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. But you still have all your cap room available to you. You still have all your draft picks. You didn't do anything stupid like look for the quick fix or sign players that were undeserving of deals. In the Lakers case, the last 2 years, LeBron James has been recruiting players to come play with him in LA. He thought he was going to get Paul George last year. Paul George winds up re-signing with the Thunder, and 1 year later gets traded to the little brother Clippers that they share the same building with. He was able to get Anthony Davis via trade after a year-long soap opera storyline this was, but it cost them most of the depth on their team outside of Kyle Kuzma. Just when he thinks he's going to get Kawhi Leonard is able to pull off the heist of the year, get Paul George traded to the Clippers, and goes to the Clippers as well. So now you have a big 2 in one side of the Staples Center and a big 2 on the other side of the Staples Center. So, had to be a tough pill to swallow for the Lakers, but I'm glad that this happened. I'm glad that Kawhi made this decision. I'm glad that this trade went down, forcing Kawhi to make this decision, because I did not want to see Kawhi Leonard go to the Lakers, stack the deck. We've been waiting for a long time to get away from these super teams, get away from these players stacking the deck where you have 3-4 All-Stars on one roster. Yes, the Lakers added a lot of good depth pieces, whether it be with today's edition of Avery Bradley, Brendan Quinn Cook, re-signing Rajon Rondo, Alex Caruso, bringing in DeMarcus Cousins, the signing of Danny Green. But unless DeMarcus Cousins turns into the Boogie Cousins pre-Achilles injury, that's not a big three there. That's LeBron, AD, and a bunch of role players. If you would have had LeBron, AD, and Kawhi, you would have had 3 of the top 7-8 players in the league all together on one team together. And make it even worse, it's the Lakers, the team that everybody feels like, or fans feel like everybody just caves to, everyone just bows down to, like they always seemingly get everything they want. Now we have somewhat of a level playing field. I mean, the Lakers still have 2 All-Stars. The Clippers now have their 2 All-Stars, but they probably have a deeper team with, Lou Williams as the best 6th man in the league. Able to re-sign Patrick Beverley. You have Zubac there at center, who the Lakers foolishly traded earlier this year. You have Montrezl Harrell. Brought in Wilson Chandler as a depth piece off the bench. Come in, give you, 10, 15 minutes a night. Put a couple buckets in there for you. So that they have built themselves a pretty good depth team. You look around the West, the improvement that the Jazz have made. The Nuggets may even get better if they get anything out of Michael Porter Jr. You still got Portland there. You have the Warriors, who will not be a top seed, but probably still a playoff team. You look out in the East, you've got Boston still in the mix, even with losing Al Horford and the change that they have at point guard. The Raptors still should be a solid team. We'll see how Siakam does, taking that next step as he ascends to possibly being an All-Star this year. You look at the Sixers, who may have the best starting lineup in the Eastern Conference. Brooklyn should be better. The Pacers, with hopefully a fully healthy Victor Oladipo, should be pretty good. Jimmy Butler down in Miami. So it's a wide pool. I mean, you have, amongst those teams that I just listed off, you probably have at least 10 of them that you could say, I would not be surprised if they won the NBA championship next year. Probably most of them out west, and leaving the Spurs out there. They made some good moves in this free agency as well. But no, there are no super teams anymore. There are no teams stacking deck anymore, whether it be when you had LeBron, Wade, and Bosh all getting together in Miami. Will it be Kevin Durant joining a 73-win Warriors team that had just gotten screwed out of an NBA Finals? So now we're back to more of a parity, what NBA fans had always begged for. The biggest question, though, that remains to me is what happens with the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, this is the second time a big star has won it out that has left Russell Westbrook. That reputation is out there now or just that feel is out there of people don't want to play with Russell Westbrook I know Paul George said all the right things on the way out, saying he's not going to accept any of this slander that people are going to try and throw Westbrook's way. But it is a fair discussion to bring up here. And what do the Thunder do now? I mean, do they possibly decide to try and trade Russell Westbrook? I mean, he does have, 4 more years on his contract. He is 31 years old. And with the way that he plays at such a reckless abandon, you worry about health issues eventually cropping up there. Or does he eventually try and recruit another star to come play with him and have a big two there in OKC once again? But, someone brought this up last week. I forget what outlet it was, but it's going to be fascinating years down the road. They should ESPN should do a 30 for 30 on this. What happened to the Oklahoma City Thunder? Because you think about it, at one point, they had not just Russell Westbrook, but Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka. 3 of those 4 guys are gone. How were they not able to keep that team together? That team, you think about it, 6-7 years ago, people thought, this is going to be the next powerhouse in the NBA. This team's going to win multiple championships. They went to one NBA Finals, and they blew a Western Conference Finals in which they had a 3-1 lead. They won nothing with that group together. It's just be a fascinating story to look back on someday. But right now, we're all still trying to get our minds around this bombshell that the Clippers pulled off over the weekend. And I give the Clippers organization a lot of credit, and I give Kawhi a lot of credit because he's surrounded himself around the right people. The fact that there were no leaks in this, that there was no breaking news, there was no Woj dropping any Woj bombs. No one saw this coming. The fact that not only he goes to the Clippers, but he was able to do through a lot of meetings, orchestrate Paul George getting traded there along with him, and not anyone out there had any rumblings, reportings, rumors about this possibly happening. Wow, what a day in the NBA. What a day in sports. The fact that something this big can go under the radar and not be reported and leave everyone in this kind of shock and awe when it actually does happen. All right, got a lot left I want to get to here today. Give you some thoughts on the women's team U.S.A. winning the World Cup. We're going to mix in some things I don't usually talk about, whether it be tennis, the UFC. We're at the NBA All-Star break, mixing some thoughts there, as well as one NFL superstar getting very, very lucky. So a lot left to get to here next about 40 minutes or so. So sit back, relax, put your feet up on the table if there's one in front of you, and continue keeping it sports with M3.
Shouldn't we be doing something we love? Call Connecticut School of Broadcasting at 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Since 1964, Connecticut School of Broadcasting, with a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami, has helped place thousands of grads as DJs, sportscasters, entertainment reporters, behind the scenes, audio and video production, every aspect of the broadcast media. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has trained men and women of all ages and backgrounds in a matter of months, not years. Learn by doing from area radio and TV pros. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. Day and evening classes begin soon. Get trained. Get connected now.
Welcome back to Keeping It Sports with M3. Hope you all enjoying your Monday afternoons. Hope you all had a great weekend. Tell you who had a really good weekend, great weekend. U.S. Women's World Cup team winning their second consecutive World Cup. Got to give them a lot of credit. And I'll be honest, you guys know I'm not the biggest fan of soccer in the world. I got a problem with some of the dives that the players take, especially on the men's side, and the whole nonsense when it comes to the stoppage time. And my complaint has always been, why can't they just put the exact amount of time that they're adding on the clock, or if someone gets hurt or the ball goes out of bounds, just stop the clock as you would in any other sport. And I've never gotten an exact answer for that. Probably never will. But even with all that, can't discredit what these women did here. I mean, a lot of other countries thought the women were being arrogant, especially when they celebrated every goal in their 13-0 victory in their first round matchup against Thailand, or whether it be the way that they just seemingly overpowered other teams. So I heard England, their coach was annoyed last week that the U.S.A. was already looking at hotel locations for the finals before even playing England in the semifinals. And listen, my thought on stuff like that has always been, if you have a problem with the way someone celebrates, the way someone does something, if something they do in the sports world rubs you the wrong way, then hey, go out there and beat them. Go out there and the proverbial term is crack them right in the jaw and knock them down a peg, rather than sit there and bitch and moan about it. It's like when people complain about a pitcher celebrating after a strikeout in Major League Baseball, hitting a batter celebrating a home run. You don't like the other guy celebrating? Beat them. Or when a wide receiver celebrates a touchdown in the NFL, you don't want to see that? Stop them from scoring. Same thing here applies. You don't want these women to have these big celebrations, then stop them from scoring and win the matchup. I'll tell you, though, what is the biggest load of horse crap here. It is the fact that these women are not getting paid equal to what the men are getting paid. This is the fourth World Cup that they've won. Second consecutive one. You realize that these women are only each making $260,000 off of this? You want to know what the men World Cup players made off their last World Cup appearance? $1.1 million. You want to know how many World Cups Team USA on the men's side has won? That would be a big donut, Your Honor. The big zero. Nothing. Nada. I'm not even sure. Maybe someone could tell me this because I don't stick around to pay attention long enough. I'm not even sure if they've got into a World Cup final in men's soccer history. And they're getting paid more than the women. The women go out there, bust their ass. They actually win something. They're getting paid barely a quarter of what the men are getting paid. I gotta tell you, that is a bunch of bull crap right there. And that something's gotta be done about it. I mean, I've always been all for equality, believing in the thing that they have in college sports, the Title IX rule. Well, something like that has to apply here when it comes to not just the World Cup, but Olympic sporting events. You gotta pay the men one thing, you gotta pay the women that same amount, especially when they go out there and win and represent the country proudly in such dominant, epic fashion as they did. I mean, 1.1 million for the men. Are you out of your damn mind? Send those scrubs out there to win something for once before we hand them over 7 figures, please. See, another thing I wanted to talk about today, and I guess I picked the right day to talk about this, is this young lady in women's tennis, Coco Gauff, I believe her name is pronounced. I hope I'm saying that right. This young 15-year-old that's been participating in the Wimbledon tournament on the women's side. She was selected late as kind of a wild card to this tournament. She was, in fact, actually the youngest player ever to make Wimbledon. And you think about the run that she had here. Not only did she win 3 matchups to get to the round of 16, but she beat Venus Williams in the first round. And I understand Venus is less accomplished than her sister Serena, but we're still talking about one of the greats in the history of women's tennis. We're still talking about a Hall of Fame caliber player, and she defeated her in the first round in straight sets. Kind of became a darling, not just amongst the tennis world, but amongst the media as well. And she's getting asked questions about like music albums that are coming out that she's looking forward to, stuff that doesn't involve tennis world, and wasn't any arrogance about her, wasn't any conceitedness about her, like, oh hey, look what I'm doing at 15. No, she came off as very humble, modest about this the whole time, and unfortunately that run came to an end this morning when she took on Simona Halep. Excuse me, I'm having a hard time pronouncing some of these names today for some reason, but they played on court 1 in the All England Club, the second biggest stadium there. Unfortunately, she lost in straight sets, 6-3 each time, and I think it was a combination of a couple things. Maybe just the mental exhaustion of a 15-year-old in Wimbledon. This her first time on the big stage like this. And I know she had kind of gotten into other events, but she had never made it this far in one of these majors. And just being put on the big stage against a woman in Halep who had been a number 1 ranked in the world previously, has been here, done that, and gone deep in Wimbledon before. She just took advantage of some of the young lady's weaknesses, and as I said, she's 15. You expect she'll get better from here. She'll learn from her mistakes, but you gotta love how she reacted to it afterwards, talking about how she was proud of her run. It was a dream come true, and it's only motivation to get stronger and as a player and advance deeper here. So give her a lot of credit, and if she has as great a work ethic as she comes off the scene, gotta believe this is not the last time we've seen her on the big stage like this, whether it be Wimbledon, whether it be the French Open, the U.S. Open. She's going to be back and be better than ever, learn from her loss here, and only get better from here. It was a great weekend for women's sports in general. Not just what you see from Coco here, not just from what you saw from the U.S. women's soccer team, but the continued dominance on the grand stage of the UFC by one Miss Amanda Nunez, who wiped the floor with Holly Holmes on Saturday night, defeating her 50 seconds into the first round of the co-main event at UFC 239 to retain the women's bantamweight title. And Amanda Nunez, in the last couple of years, has become the face of MMA on the women's side, at least. You could even make an argument she's one of the faces, and probably a pretty good argument that she's one of the faces of all of MMA in general with her accomplishments. And with this win, she's now up to 18-4 all time, 13 of those coming via knockout. She's not just the first, but the only woman in history to not just win both titles, but hold them simultaneously, as she's both currently the women's bantamweight and women's featherweight champion. Title that the second of which, the featherweight, she won back at UFC 235 when she defeated Chris Cyborg by knockout. And what she also has a pellet on her wall is she probably in all likelihood ended the career of that one time thought of baddest woman on the planet, most unstoppable fighter on the planet, Ronda Rousey, when Ronda did lose a year and a half earlier to Holly Holmes, but there were a lot of people that thought, oh, Ronda just needs some time off, she'll be back, she'll be re-energized, she'll be recharged. She comes back in early 2017 and faces Nunez on New Year's Eve, I believe it was, and Nunez knocks her out within the first minute of their main event title fight that night. So she ends Ronda's career, knocks out Cyborg, knocks out Holly Holmes, holds both of the women's titles in UFC right now, and it's an incredible run she's on, and I just look forward to seeing if there's anybody that can step up, get to that level, and possibly be a challenge for her, because the fact that she's beat all of these incredible athletes within the first minute of the first round, I mean, this is dominance I don't even think Ronda had during her time. I mean, Ronda was either knocking people out or tapping them out. They weren't going to decisions in her win. But to do it all in the first round, absolutely incredible. A couple other, notes from that night. You saw in the welterweight, you saw Jorge Masvidal defeat Ben Askren in one of the greatest knockouts we've ever seen, whether it be MMA or boxing. The fact that here's what I don't get from Askren. For 3 days before this fight, Masvidal said that, I'm going to start off the fight with a flying knee. That's the first move I'm going to throw in this fight. He starts off the fight with the flying knee and knocks him out in 5 seconds. You've heard him say this for 3 days. He's going to start off the fight with that. How are you not better prepared? He essentially, leaned right into it. I've heard other people say, "Oh no, he was trying to avoid contact." BS. If you're trying to avoid contact, you're either, jumping from your side, you're backing up. You're not, going head first right into a flying knee. The other thing I saw that night was with Jon Jones retaining the light heavyweight title. And let's face it, he survived this fight. He really did not win the fight, and he even admitted afterwards that he kind of took Thiago Santos for granted. The fact that Santos connected with a better percentage of his punches than Jones. He should consider himself incredibly lucky that the judges decided, all right, he's going to win this outright, that he's going to win this via our decision. And let's face it, when it comes to Jon Jones, he's his own worst enemy. You look at the 2 PED suspensions he's had in his career. The fact that he got very lucky that each time the U.S. Fighting Commission decided to let him back into the octagon, give him a second and third chance there. You look at the fact that outside of those, hasn't lost a fight since 2009, and that one fight he lost was to Matt Hamill, in which he lost by disqualification at the finale of The Ultimate Fighter for, I'm trying to think, I believe it was a low blow he threw that night, or no, what was an illegal elbow he threw to his head. My mistake there. But the guy, he has the talent to be the greatest of all time. And you can see that by his record, 25-1, the only loss being a disqualification. But he just keeps doing stupid things or not taking the sport seriously, and that is leading people to turn on him, people wanting someone to come along and not just beat him because he's good, but beat him because he acts like an asshole. And you just wish that sometime that Jon Jones would not take all this great ability he has for granted, because, as I said, on 2 occasions, it almost cost him his career, and he should consider himself very lucky that they allowed him back in the sport and that he's been able to get back on this kind of run and look like he didn't miss a beat at all. All right, going to take another break here, come back on the other side, turn my attention to baseball. We're at the All-Star break here. Take a look at the standings. Got the home run derby coming up tonight. And when it comes to the team I root for, the New York Yankees, I feel it's fair to give a little bit of a public service announcement to my fellow Yankee fans. Continue keeping sports with M3.
Broadcasting has helped place thousands of people, just like you, in exciting careers in radio, television, and the new media. At Connecticut School of Broadcasting, our hands-on approach is different. It's designed to have you spend less time in the classroom and more time in the studios. From the first day, you'll work with state-of-the-art equipment. Learn by doing from our team of industry professionals who come from their studios to ours. The best part about it, you'll learn it all in a matter of months, not years. Connecticut School of Broadcasting has a network of 12 campuses from Massachusetts to Miami. Remember, it's never too late to love what you do. So do what I do. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO. Step into the fast-paced world of the broadcast media. Day and evening classes begin soon. Connecticut School of Broadcasting. Get trained and get connected now. Call 1-800-TV-RADIO or log on to GoCSB.com.
Welcome back to Keeping Sports with M3. Remember, tell your friends about the podcast. Tell them about where they can find this each and every single week, whether it be through Facebook, facebook.com/Keeping Sports with M3. You can find the link also on our Twitter account at Keeping It Sports with M3. Actually, it's just at Keeping It Sports. I wasn't able to fit the with M3 due to the fact that Twitter only allows 15 characters per Twitter handle. That kind of stinks there, but you can find that there. Hell, if you're on Facebook on Monday afternoons, you can watch the podcast live. I'll even put the video replay on the Facebook page so you can watch that later on, as well as you can find it on YouTube, our official YouTube channel, Keeping Sports with M3. Just tell your friends about where you can find us. Tell them if they're sports fans, they want to hear someone every Monday afternoon ramble, rant on about things going on in the sports world that on their mind, whether it be the NBA, NFL, Major League Baseball. We've mixed in some UFC and tennis and World Cup soccer today. Whatever's relevant, I will talk about it. I'm not afraid to talk about sports that are outside of my comfort zone. And as you can see, soccer, tennis, that's not really my cachet. UFC, I try to catch as much mixed martial arts as I can, but sometimes with everything else going on and the fact that I do like to give myself a break from the sports world here and there to catch up on other TV shows I like or go out and hang out with friends, it's tough to watch everything and make sure you're caught up on everything. But I do the best I can. I do try the hardest I can because I have a passion for it. I love sports and want to make a career out of it. And, the more people that get told about this podcast of where they can listen to it each week or how they can view it each week, hey, you never know who could be listening or watching, and that could lead to my big break. So as I tell you guys, don't have to be my friend on social media. Just spread the word out there. Tell people where you can find this each and every single week. Facebook.com/KeepingSportsWithM3. @KeepingSports on Twitter. As well as check out the YouTube channel on YouTube, Keeping It Sports with M3. Now, I mentioned earlier that one NFL star got very, very lucky the other day. And that would be Ezekiel Elliott, the Dallas Cowboys running back, who, if you remember back in May, had an incident at a hotel in Las Vegas where I still don't know a lot of the details surrounding it, but he had to be detained by police and officers, wasn't arrested, but had to be detained and held back after he got into an altercation with a security guard. Now, I bet you part of it had to do with the fact that he was a bit intoxicated at the time. There had to be alcohol in the mix here, even though, to be fair, that doesn't give him a right to be all belligerent and try and start a fight with a security guard. But I was very surprised when late last week it was announced that the NFL would not be suspending him for this incident. Especially the fact that, usually when you get called in to the commissioner's office and the commissioner wants to meet with you in New York, there's a good chance that for an incident like this, you're going to get suspended. I mean, they usually don't call in guys just to say, all right, you're not going to be suspended. There's usually some kind of warning along the lines there. And let's not act like this is a first-time offender. Remember, he did have the domestic violence incident from a couple of years ago that he did get dealt a pretty heavy suspension on. So, got to say, just like Jon Jones got lucky with the referee's decisions in UFC 239. Ezekiel Elliott got very lucky with the NFL, the fact that he wasn't suspended here. But I guarantee you, whether it be Roger Goodell or someone up in the higher-ups of that front office, when he was in there for that meeting, they had to have given him a warning. All right, we're going to let you off this time. But if you do this again, you're going to miss a significant part of the season. We're not giving you a second chance on an incident like this. We gave you a suspension once before. We're not afraid to give you another suspension here for your off-the-field conduct. Now, we've hit one of the significant parts of the baseball calendar, the All-Star break. All-Star break, everybody's off until Friday. I believe the Cardinals and Cubs will be coming back first, playing a standalone game on Thursday night on the MLB Network. But other than that, everyone's off until Friday night. Tonight you got the Home Run Derby taking place here. Many of the guys in the local area will be on Pete Alonso of the New York Mets, who continues to set records, break the record books with the Mets setting a new rookie franchise record of 30 home runs, and he's done it before the All-Star break. And say what you want about the ball being, juiced or whatnot, and I do believe there is something going on, something crazy. The 30 home runs before the break, that is very impressive. A great start to this kid's career, and just hope, if you're a Mets fan and if you're a baseball fan, and he's one of the few fun things to watch with the Mets these days. Him, McNeil, even Jacob deGrom, who hasn't been as good as he was last year, but those three guys are, hopefully the building blocks for good things to come when it comes to the New York Mets. Only problem is, when it comes to the Mets, can they go even 1 week with the focus being on the field rather than off the field? And for 3 weeks in a row, whether it be firing the pitching coach and bringing in a new pitching coach who hasn't coached in baseball in 20 years, or the altercation with Tim Healy of Newsday in the clubhouse a couple of weeks ago, there's always something off the field going on with this team in recent weeks. And when you're winning, things like this get covered up. When you're losing and you're bad like the Mets are, things like this become an embarrassment. And once again, they had another off the field incident on Friday night when, before Mickey Callaway meets the media after an atrocious loss in which Edwin Diaz gave up 4 runs in the 9th inning. He's been terrible for this team. Brodie Van Wagenen calls the coaching staff into his office for a meeting, and he just flips out, including throwing a chair at the wall. Now, first of all, Brodie Van Wagenen, instead of throwing a chair at the wall and trying to intimidate the coaching staff, maybe he should be throwing a chair at himself, because what move that he made this offseason has worked out? Robinson Cano has been a shell of his old self. Hell, even last year's Robinson Cano would have been an improvement over what we've seen from him this year. Edwin Diaz has been awful for the last 2 months. Ramos, none of the pitchers want to throw to him anymore. Let's see, Jeurys Familia has a near 8 ERA. And the fact that Jed Lowry hasn't played a game yet. Yeah, a phenomenal offseason, Brody. Yeah, everyone else is the problem, not you. Yet, look at it. You went and got 2 of your guys that you represented in Lowry and Cano. And you gave a big contract extension to your guy, Jacob deGrom, who, I know he wasn't his agent anymore, but it's something he fought for before he became the Met general manager. And while deGrom's been better recently, it hasn't been, your typical Jacob deGrom type season. Just, outright embarrassment that the Mets have turned into. And now, for the 3rd year in a row, you sit here, it's the All-Star break, and the Mets are out of it. And you say what you want. Yeah, there's 72 games left to play in the season. There are 7 games back in the wild card. But, the 13 games out of the division. And as far as the wild card is concerned, they have they have about 6 or 7 teams to jump over here when it comes to the National League wild card standings. As sitting here, they're behind Milwaukee, Arizona, San Diego, St. Louis, Colorado, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and San Francisco. They're worse than San Francisco. The only team with a worse record than them in the National League is the Miami Marlins, who are an embarrassing 22 games under 500. I mean, it's a joke what the Mets have turned into. They can't win games on the road. They're They're under 500 against winning teams. I mean, it's an all-out joke when you look at pitching staff where 2 through 4 you can't trust them, and quite frankly, I'm not sure how much in the second half I'm going to actually talk about them, unless it's the trade deadline and they start selling pieces off, whether it be Zach Wheeler, Ramos, Todd Frazier, who I almost thought was going to get a fight with Jake Arrieta with all the beanball that was going on from the Phillies side on Saturday night. And then you have Jake Arrieta's comments of saying he'll put a dent in his skull after the game. But just an outright embarrassment what the Mets have truly become here. And it's going to be a very empty second half of the season there at Citi Field, especially the fact that they've gotten done with the Subway Series. I mean, I was there last week, and they did not. They had a good crowd for the Subway Series, but it wasn't sellouts each night. There were empty seats in the upper decks of Citi Field for those games. And if I'm being fair, it was probably 60-40 Yankee fans to Met fans. Now, we also have the All-Star game coming up tomorrow night, and I gotta tell you, I'm not that into the All-Star game this year. Yeah, there's a couple of Yankees in there. Want to see DJ LeMahieu, whatnot. Gleyber Torres, hopefully he'll get in some point during the game. You got Sanchez as starting catcher, Chapman's in the game. But the fact that we have over 60 guys in the All-Star game now, whether it be through injuries, pitchers pitching on Sunday, there have been injuries to the replacements leading to a secondary replacement. It's kind of become a farce and taken away from my excitement of the All-Star game. Especially, listen, I'm a big fan of Masahiro Tanaka, but he should not be an All-Star. And I'm looking last week, I'm seeing as there's injuries or starters who pitching on Sunday that are not available for the game, and I'm seeing replacements being put in. I'm like, wait a minute, this guy's added to the All-Star team. He shouldn't be an All-Star. And if there was going to be another Yankee pitcher added to the All-Star team, it should have been Adam Ottavino, not Masahiro Tanaka. Give him a little bit of a break there. But you know, I know there's some Yankee fans out there that are upset. For some reason, I mean, this is ridiculous. A team that is 26 games over 500, 57-31 at the All-Star break. And there's members of the fan base that are upset with how they ended the first half. The fact that they split a hard-fought 4 games at Tropicana Field to the Rays, losing 4-3 on Saturday night, and then 2-1 yesterday. All right, it wasn't either Sabathia or James Paxton's fault. Sabathia made one bad pitch on Saturday night, that 2-run homer that I'm sure he would like back with 2 outs in the 7th inning. Or Paxton, he gave up 2 runs early on in the game. After that, he was fine. He went deep and gave most of the bullpen a rest. But the one thing I can, if I'm a fan, I can agree with complaining on. How the hell are DJ LeMahieu and Gleyber Torres out of the lineup yesterday? It's almost like we've gotten to the point where when Aaron Boone or whoever's deciding the lineup for Aaron Boone, they feel like they need to justify certain guys being on the team. So it's like, we have so many all-star caliber players on this team that we're going to go over the top in this, making sure we give guys rest days and not putting our best lineup out there each and every day. We got to make sure everyone's aware that Mike Tauchman's on the team, or make sure that Brett Gardner remains a relevant member of the team. I don't care that he had 3 home runs in 3 games in a row. Let's face it. Wait for the second half. You know that Gardner falls apart every year in the second half of the season. Or they called up some infielder yesterday that I didn't even know his name. I had to look him up to realize that this guy was actually on the team. I'm like, who the hell is this guy playing second base? Where's Glaber at? Well, why isn't he out there? Or where is DJ LeMahieu at? Some guy that they claim off waivers from the San Francisco Giants that they called up when they sent the pitcher down late Saturday night. But as I said, 26 games over 500 at the All-Star break. If I told you that back in April, that this team would be 26 games over, have a 6.5 game lead over Tampa, 9 game lead over the Red Sox, be 8 up in the loss column on Tampa, and 10 up in the loss column on Boston in the division, you would not believe it. You would be saying, how the hell did that happen? With all the injuries that this team's had. The fact that their ace pitcher, Luis Severino, hasn't thrown a pitch for him yet this year. And who knows if he even pitches. The fact that your best relief pitcher in Dylan Patantes has not thrown a pitch this year. And who knows if he pitches for them at all this year. And that this team is 26 games over 500 and in the first place. There's not much to complain about there, folks. You got to give Boone and Cashman a lot of credit for what they've done. Yeah, are they going over the top with these days off and justifying certain people being in the lineup? Probably so. I mean, I do not need to see Mike Tauchman playing 3 out of 4 games against the Tampa Bay Rays. But there's not much to complain about here, especially when you see all the injuries and the fact that at that time, you were just hoping that they'd tread water, that they'd stay afloat. And the Yankees have done more than that. They've dominated. And yes, you could say, oh, the American League is top-heavy. The fact that you have Houston with the only team with a better record than them. Minnesota's been surprisingly good. After that, you've got Tampa Bay, Cleveland, Oakland, and Boston as the only teams that are really in the mix of things right now. And the bottom of the American League is awful compared to the National League, where you look at and the only teams you could truly say are out of it are the Giants, Mets, and Marlins. I mean, you got to get give them credit for what they've done, but at the same time, this team, we know what the focus is on. Two things. One, winning a division title, which it's scary to think that it's been since 2012 since the Yankees won a division title. And 2, winning in October. I mean, it's all fun and glitz and glam right now, but all of this means nothing unless they win a championship this coming October. And they need to start preparing this roster for an October run. The biggest threat to them is probably going to be the Houston Astros. The fact that while the Yankees may probably have a deeper lineup than the Astros have those 2 horses at the front end of their rotation in Justin Verlander and Garrett Cole. And the Yankees, we all know, need to go out there and make a trade for a starting pitcher. The guy that I keep screaming about is going and trading for Madison Bumgarner. Best big game pitcher of the last decade, probably the best postseason pitcher of all time. You're going to hear rumors about Marcus Stroman, Matthew Boyd. Hell, there's the rumors today about Trevor Bauer. The one rumor that needs to stop, though, and I'm not just talking about from the media. The media's kind of calmed down on it. It's from the fans. Stop with this nonsense that I'm seeing all over Twitter every day of saying, oh, the Yankees need to trade for Max Scherzer. Let me say this again. This is the final time I'm going to say this. I've said this to my family. I've said that to people here at the Connecticut School of Broadcasting. I've said this to my friends as we're preparing for our softball team, Let's Go Shockers, every Monday and Wednesday night. Max Scherzer is not available. Okay? The Washington Nationals, if you would take out the standings right now and look at them, pay very close attention to them, people. Right now, if the season ended today, they would be hosting, not just playing, but hosting the NL wildcard game down there at Nationals Ballpark in Washington, D.C. And guess who they would want pitching that game for them? Max Scherzer, who in his last 9 starts has done nothing but go 7-2 with an ERA of .84, has 94 strikeouts, is an opponent's batting average of 172, only issued 9 free passes and 3 home runs in his last 64 innings pitched, and some of that in which he did with a broken nose. All right? So, as great as he is, let's not keep going on with this false narrative of, oh, the Yankees need to do whatever they can to trade for him. Because he is not available. Especially when you consider the fact that last year, the Washington Nationals, who were probably in slightly better position than they are right now, they were willing to trade. Their GM, Mike Rizzo, had a deal in place to trade Bryce Harper to the Houston Astros, and ownership turned that down. Because they figured, oh, he's about to be a free agent. If we trade him away, he's gone. Max Scherzer, they still have under contract for not just the remainder of this year, but 2 years following that. I mean, can you imagine the King's ransom that if they were out of it, that they would ask for? So enough with this false narrative. And this all started because John Harper of SMY put out an article on SMY.com a couple weeks ago that NJ.com got aware of and ran with it of, oh, Brian Cashman would be willing to do anything to trade for Scherzer. Yeah, he would be willing to do anything if Scherzer was available. That article was nothing but clickbait. Scherzer is not available. The Nationals, they are 8-2 in their last 10 games. They have the best record in the National League since the start of June, and that's coming from a team that had a bullpen ERA of 7 over the first 2 months of the year. So anyone out there who still has this crazy idea in their mind, oh, the Yankees can get anybody they want. Yeah, let's go out there and get Max Scherzer. Enough of it. He's not available. He is not coming to the Pinstripes. So you're going to have to focus your attention somewhere else if you want the Yankees to make a big trade at the July 31st trade deadline. And that, my friends, is Keeping It Sports with M3 for Monday, July 8th, 2019. I hope all of you have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week. Let's go Shockers. That's our softball team, if you're unaware of. And I'll talk to you guys again, same time next week. Peace.